What's your number one hack for the holiday season?
Everybody listening right now is quant, conversions. This time of year, get it out.
This is your version of Breaking Bad.
Yes, we're focused in the millennial demographic.
The very next thing you should think about is that
you can't forget about SEO.
The trick is the relationship with the carriers, right?
I'm Mac.
I'm Sabir.
And this is Hacking the Holidays.
Hacking the Holidays podcast miniseries is produced and brought to you by VaynerMedia and Shopify Plus to help you hack the holidays. Visit us on the web at VaynerMedia.com/eCommerce. In this episode, we set expectations with Nicole Gardner and JD Woods.
Nicole Gardner is the Chief Operating Officer of Dormify, a lifestyle brand and e-commerce business that is transforming the way that young adults decorate their small spaces. Part of the founding team, Nicole led the initial business strategy, seed financing, and the e-commerce launch. She now heads up all of digital operations and brand strategy with the goal of making Dormify a staple in bedrooms, dorms, and apartments everywhere. JD Woods is an experienced distribution executive and currently the CXO of third-party logistics provider Dotcom Distribution, based in Edison, New Jersey. JD studied the management of information and technology at Ramapo College, is a certified design for Six Sigma Black Belt, Scrum Master, and Scrum Product Owner Certified, and is certified in transportation and logistics by the American Society of Transportation and Logistics. Well, welcome to Hacking the Holidays, Nicole and JD.
Hello.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for coming. So first, I'm curious, Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about your business and what you do?
Yeah, so Dormify is a lifestyle brand and direct-to-consumer business that is dedicated to helping young adults decorate their small space. So we design and curate home furnishings, think bedding, wall art, room decor, rugs, etc., with the goal of making a small space stylish, sophisticated, and fun.
I like that. And JD, what do you do?
So Dotcom Distribution is a fulfillment shop. Our specialty, our target market is emerging brands. So our goal is to be the operational arm for brands so that they can focus on excitement and the relationships with their customers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of overlap between emerging brands, specifically also Shopify and Shopify Plus. Mm-hmm. This is a platform that many people kind of find their legs on and start to grow and gain momentum for their brand. Nicole, have you found that? Like, was Shopify in on the early days of Dormify, or did you come to it later?
We actually came to it later. We were on a different platform through the early days and actually migrated to Shopify Plus this past spring. So we've been on it a little under a year now, and we're very happy with the experience so far.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Nicole, so how do you prep your customers? So, it's holiday season. You're going to be selling a lot of merchandise, or your holiday season. Actually, first, let's get this over the way.
Yeah.
Your holiday season is different. It's not Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like, what's your peak season?
So we still have a little fun around the holidays, but for us, the prime busy season is back to school. So that can be anywhere from like Memorial Day through Labor Day, really, for us. So when everybody else is on vacation, we're crazy busy.
Great.
Wow.
So using that frame, so that's your holiday.
Yeah.
How do you prep your customers and set expectations for when they're going to receive their products, or what your normal process is to get them their items?
So similar to the normal holiday season where there's a deadline, so there's an end point. Early in the season, customers are a lot more concerned about free shipping and return policies and things like that. But then once you get later in the season, the time to ship is really, really critical. Now in this day and age, as you know, JD, like everybody expects things to ship immediately. So even customers on a Saturday think they're going to get something tomorrow. So for us, it's about framing and setting the expectations up front as much as possible through the shopping experience. So one of the things that is a huge value add for us is a lot of our products that are warehoused. We have part of our products are drop ship, a small portion, but the large majority are shipping from our warehouse in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, and most of those ship next day, so within 24 to 48 hours, which if you're ordering on the East Coast, you can usually get things within a few days. So we've kind of had a disconnect where people don't realize that they can get it that quickly. So that's a good conversion tool if we can layer that messaging in through the site experience. So we've actually recently implemented some changes. We couldn't do it before as a site-wide message because we had dropship products that would take sometimes a week or more to ship out because they were made to order or shipping from different places. So we recently implemented a split cart functionality. So in our cart, if products are eligible to ship within that quick time frame, it clearly says that, and then anything else says it ships separately, so that we're layering in the customer expectation right off the bat that most of these items will get to you quickly and in a reasonable turnaround time, but some of these other items will take a little longer. So we're kind of using that as a conversion tool on the one hand because we're giving them that ability to know that they're going to get it quickly, but then we're kind of offsetting some of the possible frustration that could happen for things that take longer.
Cool. And JD, from your perspective, how do you work with your clients and people who use your services in order to make sure that they ship on time and on budget throughout the holiday season? Is there anything special that you do this time of year?
Mm-hmm. So, 9 months out of the year, we're all about a very strategic relationship. We're all about long-term planning windows, trying to share some of the experience from our other clients and maybe cross-marketing. And then as we get close to peak, we get really low tactical, and that's what you have to do. We'll go from a weekly planning meeting to a 15-minute stand-up meeting in the morning and try to limit it to, what's exceptions. So we have a plan. What we need to know right now is what's different from that plan than we thought we had yesterday. And so for, roughly about a month and a half, our whole goal is what do we need to know and how do we act on it? And we find that the more frequent communication and the more exception-based communication really helps everybody stay focused.
How much of that is like client input from let's say Nicole versus your DNA because you have it across all of your clients?
Right. So for us, what we're looking for from the stand-up meeting again is to just have that 15-minute check-in and say, what's different? So we do a lot of business with emerging brands, and those brands frequently don't have last year's number to look at, or even if they do, last year was radically different from this year in terms of product mix, product offering, who's marketing. So you really can't go on that historical data and take it as a pure indicator of what this year's going to look like. So what we like to do is check in and go, hey, we've noticed that, a SKU we never talk about is shipping a lot. Or we like to talk about what's going to be different in terms of simple things like your typical order is 2.6 items, per order, and now it's 1. What do we do to try to find efficiencies? Because your 3PL, their goal during peak is to get the maximum numbers out the door as fast as possible. We'll be trading certain efficiencies of our own to try to just, from Cyber Monday on to dig out of that backlog. So when we can see changes and we can see something that looks like a trend, we want to have the ability to go, this is different. How do we identify it? And more importantly, how do we exploit it?
How do you align with the clients to kind of communicate what's happening on the operations side so that, because it affects customer service, it affects how Nicole is going to go and spend money on marketing further, because that feedback loop needs to be very tight and very close.
And that feedback loop needs to be very early.
Yeah.
So every 3PL is faced with the same problem or the same opportunity every year. That Cyber Monday backlog it's a bear, right? Yeah. You're going to walk in on that Monday and it's you're going to look at numbers that are just potentially overwhelming if you don't know that's what to expect. So the idea is to set the expectation early and to set the priorities early, right? We're all going to be digging out for a few days. Nobody can staff to what they're going to walk into on Cyber Monday. It's probably not economically feasible. It might not even be physically possible. Mm-hmm. So the trick is very early, weeks before Cyber Monday, what are our priorities? Is there a VIP customer that we need to focus on? Is there a shipping method that we want to focus on? Is it more important to get your West Coast coverage out early? There are any number of questions that we want to ask. And I think, a theme that I'll consistently come back to is the brands probably at this time of year need to take a deep breath and try to figure out why the 3PL is asking that question. So what do you mean? Don't jump to a conclusion. Why are you asking that? Maybe I don't quite understand that question or why it's important to you, but it seems to be important. So let me drill down a little bit, because there are little changes that don't seem important that can make a big difference.
That's great. And so from the post-purchase perspective, which is tough to say, but Nicole, so for you, from your perspective, you sell an item to a student, someone who's going to move into their new dorm. How do you ensure that they get a consistent and good experience after you actually have sold it? Is there notifications that they're getting? Are they understanding when it's going to arrive at their house? Yeah, so we try to be in communication with them as much as possible without overloading it, obviously. So within our system, you can subscribe to notifications through, you get them via email or text or messenger now through the Shopify checkout. And then we also use Narvar as a system to set up delivery notifications too. So for customers that want that extra added element of communication so that they can know what's happening. And then, of course, like if there are times of the year where we ran into this summer where we did hit that backlog and that 24-hour window was more like 72 to 96 hours.
That wasn't us.
In the depths of the season. And, all you can do is bury yourself out of that. That's right. And that's where we started to leverage a lot more personal communications, anything that could feel like, we didn't just forget your order. And then we started to make policy changes internally to make sure that even though the lag time had increased, that it was either communicated or we were adjusting our ship methods and ship policies at the warehouse side so that people were still getting the end order in a reasonable and fast amount of time.
So over-communicate as much as possible with your customer. It's really important during this time. Yeah, I think, and what we notice is, especially when you get to that deadline, so for us, move in, or when it comes close to Christmas, that's when the anxieties increase and the customer service, the people want to know, are reaching out, when is my order shipping, within hours of placing that order. So we try to layer in the expectations throughout that, you'll receive a shipping notification within the next 24 hours so that people know to expect that. And, if it's not getting to them in that 24-hour window, making sure there's some kind of notification or messaging to them as to why. How do you manage through things kind of that are out of your control? So let's say weather. Right? You're shipping to a part of the country, there is tornadoes or hurricane or blizzards and stuff like that. Do you watch that when you're sending those kind of things out? That's out of your control. It left your warehouse already. Yeah, and I think at some points of year, when it's something that's impacting us for more than a few days, especially if it's somewhere near our warehouse, which is one thing where it could impact every customer. Potentially. We'll usually try to layer things at checkout, so it's upfront or within like the shipping step where we'll put in a notice that says, due to these affected areas and so on. Oh, got it. So that, ideally we're getting that in front of them at the time of order placement so that there's no surprises later. We hope people understand when there's a tornado, your dorm, your mattress can't get there in time. Yeah, like you kind of know if there's a hurricane hitting your destination, that, but not everybody. Do you guys have stuff in place for weather circumstances? Like, is that, I'm sure there's some sort of procedure that happens. Hurricane Sandy affected this area. Hurricane Sandy. A couple of years ago. Yeah, that was a great test. We were up and running.
the trick is the relationship with the carriers, right? So on our end, we're a strategic partner to all the major carriers, and we have our own internal transportation department. We have a transportation analyst, and that's his job, is to look at the alerts, look at the service levels. We're trying to respond to service degradation to particular regions and zip codes. The trick, I think, is to have a mix of carriers because they have different routes. And, I'll give an example from where we are, but it's nothing special. UPS has 2 different sortation facilities pretty much equidistant from us, and they go different directions. So one sortation facility, if we go south, we'll take the southern route. One facility will take the northern route. So the trick for us is timing our pickup from the right hub to avoid snow if it's bad in the Rockies, or bad weather, hurricanes if it's tough through Texas. And I think the idea is to just know that's a critical part of your business. Pretty much all of e-commerce at this point is time sensitive, particularly our clients, because it's so very important to them to have the right experience, and that experience is built on trust. So it's important to just understand what a simple decision like put it on the Cherry Hill truck versus put it on the Newark truck means to the end customer.
It sounds like you help your clients make a number of decisions based on what you think is the best for their business, because you're the expert. They're the expert in maybe in selling merchandise. You're the expert in shipping the items. What's something that you find yourself coming to over and over again? What's a consistent piece of advice that you give some of your clients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what is it's sometimes the very simple things that get you, right? So I'll tell a story. We have one of our bigger customers. Last year, we were trying to get ready for peak, and we asked a question, but we asked it the wrong way. So actually, I think Sabir's heard me tell this story before.
No, it kind of reminded me. I'm a fan of Austin Powers with Colonel Mustafa.
Right, that's exactly.
Like you have to ask it 3 times. You didn't ask it 3 times.
We did not ask it 3 times. We have a tendency to think of maybe oversimplify things, right? So we had asked a question: what's going to be your fastest moving SKU? And give us your top 10 fastest moving SKUs, and we're going to move them down to the floor in the warehouse, and we're going to set up a special area to handle those and be able to match them up and do all this logistical magic. Comes peak, and there are 10, 15 SKUs that we have not touched that are just burning a hole in the warehouse floor. So we say, what happened? We ask the question, and they're like, well, they're not SKUs. Those are promotional items.
Oh.
Oops. So my advice,
language,
right, is have a common language and work on it. Have a common dictionary. Sometimes a simple thing of what's a SKU and what's an item can have an amazing impact, positive or negative.
Yeah, that comes back to the element of over communicating and being constant contact. What are some other, how do you manage communication with clients? Is that do you have regular meetings, or what's the best way to ensure that everything goes smoothly through that transition?
Yeah, so our approach is to have a very structured communication plan. Right? So during a normal quarter, we'll have a weekly tactical meeting. We'll have a monthly business review at a lower level just to look at SLAs and KPIs. And then we will have a quarterly strategic meeting to look at the direction. And, there are a lot of people that say that's overkill. You're spending a lot of my time in meetings. But we find that sometimes our clients are having strategic conversations among themselves in our meeting. It's the first opportunity they've had to sit still and actually talk about something at a 3-month or 6-month window is when they're sitting in our conference room, and we sometimes just sit back and get a cup of coffee and listen. But that
we're talking to each other,
right? They're talking to each other, and we're watching.
Couples therapy, I think.
It has been that on a number of occasions. You had told a story before about getting titles wrong. Yeah. We have similar ones. But for us, during the normal course of business, we have that very structured communication plan. But we're also big believers in agile product management. And we know that when you're getting close to the end of a cycle, like getting ready for peak, what you want to do is you want to have very clear expectations of what success looks like. You want to define them up front. Think user acceptance criteria, right? We want to define what a successful peak looks like and engineer to that standard and sit down and make sure that we've hit it. And then we want to talk frequently. That's why we do that 15-minute stand-up every day, just to make sure that as things pop into your mind, we're hearing them. If there's a SKU change, if there's a change to order profile, we're hearing it and we're reacting to it. You cannot over-communicate in that situation.
So changing gears a little bit, Nicole, I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think, or what are some of your best sales channels in your holiday season in terms of moving products, selling items online? Do you do paid channels, or is it all through organic, or how are you actually promoting your business?
Yeah, so we, when it comes to our back to school season or even holiday season, I think both are pretty similar. For us, a lot of it comes down to social because we are a very visual brand. We're targeting a young demographic, and our products are really kind of more trend-based and fashion-forward. It's all about showing them in real spaces. So we do a lot with Instagram, clearly, Facebook a little bit, and then search is another big one for us, which is just kind of standard.
Cool. Do you use Pinterest at all for planning? Because I would think that if I'm moving into a dorm, I would do a lot of planning on Pinterest to kind of get ideas.
We used to a lot more, but it's not.
It's less now?
Yeah, like our demographic is using it less and less. We're seeing. It's still a pretty decent channel for us, but it's not the same as it was 2 years ago, because people can use Instagram now to save looks, and
got it.
I feel like the attention span's a little different too with this generation.
Yeah, that's a common theme that's come up on this podcast. Yep. I know when Gary was in here, he talked about the attention, and being where your customers are and being present and speaking to the right audience. Yeah. Instagram right now is huge. It's just, it has the attention of the entire millennial generation, and that's a big place to be. I didn't know you could save looks on Instagram now. That's fascinating.
Yeah, you can bookmark. You can create collections. It's kind of just buried within, but people do that. A lot of people just screenshot things and save them and come back to us later. So through that, we've seen like our direct and branded traffic is massive and grows year over year, where more and more people are coming to us just directly, which we attribute to either word of mouth or largely Instagram.
What about Snapchat?
Snapchat's an interesting one. We've tried to dabble with advertising on Snapchat, and definitely, as most people have heard, there's a little bumps with that. Mm-hmm. It's definitely used a lot among this demographic, but the more we talk to, especially like high school students, the more we find that they're really just using it to talk to friends. So they don't want to follow a brand. There's not really much of an organic space for that you can't do through Instagram stories.
Got it.
And then just from an ad perspective, it's not where they want to be interacting with you. So the return just wasn't there when we tested it out, and when we've tried to do things organically there, it's been challenging, and we've just been finding much more success through Instagram.
And to touch back on the subject of operational readiness, that's the theme of the episode. I know we got off a little tangent, my fault. Yeah. What would you say is something that you're really paying attention to, or that you have paid attention to from your brand perspective or from your company to be operationally completely ready for your peak season? Is there something specific that you've done?
I think for us, a lot of it comes down to product. So planning from an inventory standpoint is obviously a challenge for everybody, especially when it comes to holiday season. You have a narrow time frame to sell as much as possible. So inventory planning is huge, and that's definitely a big factor. But from the operational side, we always try to come up with like plan A, B, and C for any instance that comes. So like you were mentioning, JD, we can give you as our warehouse a list of the top SKUs that we predict to be good sellers, and we can give predictive quantities, but there's always going to be something different that happens. So we always try to have plans for what happens when things are going on back order, but they're coming in very quickly, or if we know once we get through this, we can't order this product again for 3 more months, so it's done. So we're always trying to think of, are there things from the operations side that we can do where, if we know something's coming in within a day or 2, we can hold those orders to ship complete and deliver like kind of that whole customer experience. Or if not, then figuring out other touch points, cross recommendations on site to back in stock. We have the ability to request notifications when things come back in stock. So we'll leverage that through the season, especially when our season's more 3 months rather than 3 weeks. But figuring out, what's our plan. And then when the time comes and we're making those daily decisions, we know which route to go. And we already have the plan set.
So your partnership with the CFO, you're the COO, but your partnership with the CFO, when it comes to the holidays or the peak season, that's when credit card fraud skyrockets, right? What does that communication look like on your side, managing through that to make sure that, because you're handling the movement of the product out the door versus finance is telling you that there is fraud alert.
Yeah. Well, we don't exactly have a CFO because
You're the CFO?
Small enough that's kind of a shared responsibility.
That's okay.
So when I'm talking to myself about that, usually, honestly, right now we leverage Shopify's triggers in
with
their
the fraud
system.
management alerts?
Yeah. So
great.
our customer experience team, because it'll flag and hold orders that are flagged as potentially fraudulent, we have a process internally where our CX team will actually go in and investigate those orders. And
you should check out Shopify Flow. Have you heard of this feature?
Yeah.
Just came out, and also
Yeah.
you can actually create manual custom workflows that tag high fraudulent orders, and then file them into a different folder,
Yeah.
or email them directly to your reps. So it kind of just saves you some admin time there.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
we
very
actually
interesting.
have that for a few
nice.
specific customers that have been
If this customer orders, then
reoccurring.
delete.
Yeah, it automatically cancels their order.
Oh, cool.
So that's been pretty cool, but we have a long way to go with leveraging that to its fullest.
Nice.
Very cool.
JD, you mentioned, I thought that was a really good piece of advice where you're keeping your customers' highest moving SKUs close on the floor, ready for the action. Do you have any one significant operational hack for the holidays that you think any entrepreneurs can do?
So, the brands that we deal with are usually, the experience in the box is very important, right? We have tissue paper, we have scents, we have, everything you could think of to engage somebody outside of the product as well. And during the holiday season, it's really, I was kind of thinking about your holiday, Nicole, or your busy season, right? It's that anxiety over, is that bedding, is my order going to get there in time for me to move into my dorm? And during holiday peak, you have that same thing, that just everybody has that natural anxiety. Is this gift going to get there in time for my mother, my father, my friend, my sister, whatever? And what we kind of have noticed is the experience inside the box isn't as critical at that time of year as the trust. So we have clients where we're just saying, look, you spend a lot of time wrapping and stickering and spraying scents and doing all kinds of stuff, and you're probably not getting a return for that this time of year. This time of year, get it out and get the notification into the email, and you've made a friend for life. So we actually start to advocate that for about 3-4 weeks, worry a little bit less about the unboxing aspect of it and more about getting that alert out into the inbox, into the text as fast as possible.
And Nicole, do you have one holiday hack for any listeners out there?
I think the big thing that we try to always think about is we're all consumers too. So when any instance comes up, what would we want the end experience to be? So that's kind of what we empower all of our teams to think about when problem solving, and really just figure out how can we make this best for the end consumer.
It's your hack is a state of mind.
Yeah,
We're
it's
a
state of
customer.
mind. Yeah.
Well, JD, Nicole,
It's like do unto others what's that saying?
Exactly.
I'm
Golden rule.
horrible at these things, by the way.
Nicole, JD, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Hacking the Holidays podcast. We love all of our listeners and we'd like to hear your feedback. Please post your reviews, rating on iTunes, Google Play Store, Stitcher, or wherever you download your podcasts. Hit the like button. Encourage us to do more of this type of programming. Share with us your favorite hacks in the comments section of this podcast. And visit us on the web at VaynerMedia.com/e-commerce. Thanks, Sabir.
Thank you.